This is Dr. Anthony Balduzzi, and I want to welcome you back to another episode here on the Fit Father Project podcast. In just a moment, you're about to hear a powerful and inspiring conversation between myself and one of our Fit Father program members, Dave Prevett. Dave is 47 years young, and he is the definition of a busy father. See, Dave's an architect, particularly does a lot of design and architecture for universities, college campuses, which means he's often traveling away from home. And if you're a guy who's had a history of traveling for work, you know how challenging it can be to maintain health routines. And then at home, Dave has a beautiful and busy family. He's got his wife, Jen, and 4 school-aged children. So there's just so much pressure pulling him in many different directions. And it was January 2022 when Dave got a fateful call from his dad, where his dad asked him, Dave, do you have any New Year's resolutions? And it was on Dave's heart to make a change. He knew that he was out of alignment and he wanted to really invest in his health and fitness so he could have more vitality, be there for his kids, and just get back to feeling athletic again. And that's exactly what Dave did. And I won't steal any of the thunder from this amazing conversation where you're going to hear about how the relationship Dave had with his dad and with his family and with his Fit Father 30X program truly changed his life. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode with Fit Father Dave Prevett. All right, Dave, welcome officially to the Fit Father Project podcast, my friend. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Anthony. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. You know, my son sometimes walks into our room and catches me watching these podcasts. And he keeps asking me, Dad, when are you going to be on a podcast? And I said, son, there's a goal I want to hit. And once I do, then we'll let it rip. So here we are.
Well, we are ready to let it rip. And I'm excited for your son to listen to this. So if you're Dave's son listening to this right now, your dad is a rock star. And we're about to share all the amazing things he did to get in great shape. So to kick that off, please introduce yourself to all the guys that are listening. Name, age, where you're from, and anything you'd like to share about your family and what you do for work.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I'll do my best here. So my name's Dave Prevett. I'm 47 years old. I live in a beautiful part of Virginia called Blacksburg, which a lot of you may know about. But it's a wonderful part of the state to raise a family. So I'm an architect by trade. My passion is in college and university work for design. So I travel quite a bit around the state and around the region. I love what I do. I know it was a great choice, and I'm just delighted to continue in my passions. My wife Jennifer and I have been married for 19 years now. She is just the best partner that I could ever ask for. She knows that, but boy, our life gets better every day. And it's really blessed because we have 4 kids, age 16 down to 7. And we've really loved that journey. And every day brings new challenges, but it also brings new joys.
Nice. Well, it sounds like you have a beautiful life and now you have a healthy, vital body and routines to stay healthy for your family. But I imagine because you're on this podcast, it wasn't always that way. Mm-hmm. So take us back to maybe where you started or what point your health was at. I'd like to kind of paint a before picture and then we'll kind of go through your journey. So what was going on with your health and your life that got you prompted to really start investing more in your fitness?
Mm-hmm. We'll talk a little bit more about this later probably, but for some context, I grew up in what I would describe as a very physically healthy family. My father is a retired Navy captain, and we lived in Norfolk for a lot of those years, or in Annapolis, Maryland. And so I was always sort of seeing the military from the outside in, and seeing just the discipline that it took, for Navy officers to stay in shape. And I admired that. I admired it in my dad. So I grew up with that strong context. I was very active in sports, basketball player, soccer player. One of my actual claims to fame is that I got to guard Allen Iverson for an entire game in high school.
Nice.
And, it was those joys and great memories that I have of actually having to be pretty physical to keep up. And so I wouldn't say that I had any real disadvantages as a kid. I think I made the most of that. But, as life makes its turns, as I got into my 30s and 40s, and really my late 20s, I would say, I was more heavily invested in my work, in architecture, in travel, in raising a family. And, those things, as they add up, it's so easy to not put our health really in the driver's seat and our own wellness at the fore. So to get sort of into more recent years, let's say the last 3 or 4 years, I noticed I was traveling much, much more than ever in my career. The commitment to being out with clients, for one job, had a 4-hour drive every week. So the demands of work, the demands of travel for work, for family, just a bit. Every week was busy. It added up to a very unhealthy picture for me. Not making great choices across the board. And before I knew it, I was doing check-ins with myself on the scale. I was doing intermittent fasting where I could, but nothing was ever consistent. And so even with trips to the weight room or efforts to go out and run a lot, I just never really put all the pieces together. And so my health really started to take a dive. And so I think when I got to 2020, there were a couple of moments in there where, I clearly remember there needs to be a change. And, those stories remain with me.
Do you have a specific story there, like that really prompted you? I'd love for you to share those specifically.
Okay, sure. So I remember it's actually kind of humorous, and I got a laugh out of it. But it was one of those laughs where there's pain that comes along too. So in 2020, our neighborhood pool was closed, as a lot of facilities were that year for the pandemic. But I clearly remember the first weekend that it reopened, and so we were eager as we could be to be there. So I took my three sons to the pool, and we're reaching that moment where everyone's starting to jump in and take shirts off, right? And it was a pretty crowded day, so there's a lot of families right around us. And I took my shirt off, and my son, who had already jumped in the pool, he looks back up at me and says, "Dad, do you have excess belly fat?" And it was funny because every other mom in the pool was sort of slightly snickering, but I laughed it off, but the other side of me was saying, "Man, that's painful." Like, my kid just announced to 50 people that his dad has excess belly fat. Funny, but a tough day.
Yeah.
That was a turning point.
Yeah.
Coming ahead a couple more years. I got to January 1st of 2022. Like a lot of guys and a lot of people generally, like, we're looking to make New Year's resolutions. And I just picked up the phone and I called my dad just to wish him a happy new year and to wish my mom a happy new year. And he asked me sort of casually, but nicely, he said, "So do you have any New Year's resolutions?" Off the cuff. And I said, "Yeah, Dad, actually I do. I have, I have a lot of years added up here of not paying attention to my health. And I want this year to be different. And I want to put my fitness at the fore." And so he challenged me. He said, "I'm not going to judge you, but I'm going to offer you something. I'm going to offer to be your accountability partner. And I want you on the last day of every month, just drop me a text, give me your number, let me know how you're doing. And I'm not going to tell you what your goal has to be, but I'm going to help you get to whatever you want for yourself. And I want you to be proud of that goal." And so that day, it started a new way of thinking for me, that I finally had a guy in my corner who was my best friend, is my dad. He was the best man at my wedding. And here we are, helping each other out with things like fitness. It's still really relevant. He's retired now. He's a healthy 74, and I'm a healthier 47 because of it.
That's awesome. Now, what was your weight when you were starting in January 1st, 2022, roughly speaking?
Yeah, so I hopped on the scale on New Year's morning at 193.
Yep. And today, what do you roughly weigh in today, if we were to weigh you today?
Yeah, so I hit 160 the other day.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I would call probably you consider your fighting weight. You look lean, you look healthy. I mean, how do you feel now at this weight?
I feel good most days. There's just there's a new vibrance, I'd say. I don't get those slumps in the afternoon. I certainly don't go to bed with regret. I go to bed earlier. I wake up earlier, and I just feel like I've got like an army of people behind me, and it's the brotherhood, and it's my own family.
Nice. All right, so let's go through the process of what it took to strip that weight off, lose 30 plus pounds. You join the Fit Father program and you start with FF30X phase 1. Tell me about those early days. Like, what some aha moments you might have had reading through the program material, stuff that stuck out with you, what you start implementing. Let's talk about that early phase.
No, that's cool. I was glad you asked that. So I joined on February 17th. So it took me like a few weeks from the day that I got the challenge from my dad to find the right thing. And I sort of went off in the Lone Ranger mode for January. I said, I'm just going to go out and lift. I'm going to get all this weight off myself. Like, hoorah. Kind of had up and down days, no real success. Then I got into February. I tried some other programs out on trial versions. They just weren't a good match for me. And then when I discovered you, because a couple of words jumped out to me off the page. It was for guys in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And the keyword, busy guys. And I knew that was me. So that attracted me to starting with you. But the program was good. I love how the Brotherhood encourages guys when they're joining in to take their time, to understand that this is a long process. This is a journey. This is not something that's designed to be figured out in a day. So I took a couple of weeks to study the materials. I took a couple of weeks to really evaluate my nutrition. What am I eating and what am I drinking every day that has caused me to be where I am, and then the workouts. So it was an experimental phase, but then there was a commitment phase, and the commitment for me was getting into the Apex 10 workout. It was continuing things I love, like lifting weights, like going for runs. I love to run. I love to play basketball. So keep that stuff up, but be strategic and really know that make the most of every day. Try to get into the plan and follow it because it works for thousands of guys. And here we are as evidence.
Yeah. And so I imagine on the exercise front, you've always had these habits and you're an active guy. You like to move. Nutrition was probably one of your biggest gaps. I mean, knowing that you gained so much weight, and you mentioned the word like going to bed with regrets. So I imagine there was a habit of some kind of late night eating and stuff like that.
Sure.
Can you give us a little before and after of maybe some of the bad nutrition habits? We'll call them bad. And then what you started to adopt and the changes you made in the program, a little bit of a contrast between those two?
Yeah, sure. So that's sort of some bigger things and smaller things. I would say I was a fan of the bowl of cereal or the ice cream at night. That's always sort of a go-to. I think it was pretty normal for me to have a glass of wine after dinner, but I found myself when I was traveling that continued, and being on the road a lot, it encourages that bad behavior. So I would say for nutrition, as I've learned more through the program, I've understood now the necessary balance between the proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and I have a new love for fresh vegetables now that I never thought was in there. I found things that work for me. So replacing things like the take and bake pizzas, the quick and easy fast foods that are out there, even the things that seem to sound good and look good because of their packaging as healthy, has come out of the diet now. So
nice. And that's a knowledge component of just knowing more and having it feel a lot more integrated.
Yeah.
And like, you're a busy guy. Well, how are you fitting this in? What does a day in your life look like that would be a routine that you follow on a regular Monday through Friday kind of scenario?
That's a great question too. So it is a challenge. Every day is different. We try to set up routines and patterns for ourselves, but some things that I have stayed committed to are sort of rise and shine, like get up around 5, get up around 5:15, preserve that hour and a half, not for things like sitting around looking and staring at my phone and drinking 3 cups of coffee, but getting downstairs, getting to the basement, get over to my setup over here where I've got all the tools that I need to knock out that next workout. And it's not that the workouts are long, but they're efficient. And that's the value here, is the efficiency that I'm getting with the MRTs, which is the metabolic stuff, which I never uncovered before. I've lived in this world of lift weights, run, alternating days, lots of frustration. But the MRTs, man, they are smoking. They do so much for my body. And actually, as I walked through phase 1 and phase 2, I actually finished 6 months, and I loved the double trouble so much that I just rode it all the way. I increased the weight, right?
Nice.
But it was so good for me in terms of the routine every day that I did it. I spaced them out in 48-hour increments, but it was real valuable for me.
Dave, I got to say, you might have been the first human alive to say the sentence, "I love the double trouble so much." So that's good. And I mean, amazing that you're able to find what you love and move that. And for guys listening, this is the big paradigm shift, right? Lifting and cardio being separate things, but you combine them into foundational movements. You can get a great workout in 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
How did your strength change? And maybe you're just your general fitness, let's say from that first Apex down to like now, weights you used, what the first experience was like, and then being seasoned 6 months into these things or so, but now you're more like 10 months or so into this. Well, tell me about the changes in fitness.
Yeah, that's fine. And I'm smiling here talking about how great those workouts was. They were hard. I can relate to just about every other guy's post in the Brotherhood that these things are not easy. They take time. You have to start small. But what more importantly is that you finish. Do whatever you need to do to finish. Take as long as you need to do them. But to try to answer your question, well, the thing with the MRTs especially, I think for me, there's a rhythm to them where, and this sounds a little bit strange, but I added music to the rhythm of the workout, and I added things that I like to watch. So I actually put up on a TV the old NBA games from the 90s, where I would just watch the Knicks and the Bulls go head to head while I've got great music going and I've got the MRTs cranking. It just made that rhythm of getting through them possible because they are hard.
Nice.
So for me and my fitness, in the first 6 weeks, I didn't notice much in the mirror. And in reality, the scale didn't move very much. So I was honestly ready to throw the towel in about week 5. When I was done my first month and I had only lost like just over half a pound. It didn't make any sense because I was also really improving my habits. So I hit that plateau, I hit frustration. And I think getting through that was what really motivated me, because they're just normal and you have to just be willing to experience those lows.
Well, what kinds of words of wisdom did you get at that time? I mean, what a thing to put that much effort and that much improvement and not see a lot of payoff. Like, were there words someone said to you in the Brotherhood? Was it Ben, Catherine? Did someone say something that kept you going? Like, what kept your head in the game at that time?
Oh yeah. Like 85 guys said, keep going. They were encouraging. But one guy in the group, and I can't remember who it was, maybe 2 or 3 of them said, you ought to reach out to Kat, set up a time with her, and then write Ben. He loves to email. And that was a fact. Like Ben and Kat are so responsive. You've got a great team around you. But, within a day, I was engaging with them. I was telling them about my frustrations and the plateau. And what was interesting is that Kat especially said, let's talk about some other areas of your life. How are you sleeping? And that alerted me to a new thing. Like, okay, nutrition, workouts, but sleep, where are you? And I was honest. I said, I've been tracking that and I'm averaging about 5.5 hours a night at best, because I'm getting up earlier and because I'm so busy and unloading a dishwasher at 11:30 at night. I mean, it's just life. So Kat really helped me nail down what I needed to do to improve my sleep. So what sounds like a small piece was the trigger to really letting the results start to come forward. And Ben did something similar with me. I had a struggle with digestion. So, he helped me understand how the body works and what it means to have good gut health, and really to work on those things, which can be addressed. And, there's several strategies there that can help to sort of unlock your whole body and understand that it's not just eating and it's not just working out that helps you get where you want to go.
Yeah, it's a full integrated picture. Yeah. And when everything starts to weave together, then the body systems work well. Yeah. But I think more importantly, what you're saying, not more importantly, but equally important, is you now having the knowledge and the why behind understanding some physiology, some biology. And I think that supports your motivation to continue these things too. Has that been the case? Like, talk to me about like maybe the educational component of this. I know it's an immersive learning experience. Right. Like, how important has learning the why behind these things been for you in terms of your motivation to keep on going, or the solidity you now have?
Well, I consider myself kind of an academic and I love research. I could sit all day and sit in a library and research, the sciences behind this. But physiology is, it's like buildings. As an architect, like buildings are constantly moving. They need constant maintenance. They're fragile things. So similarly, I'm learning how the body works, and every system in the body has to rely on itself and on all the systems to come together. So there's the neurological stuff. There's the circulatory system. There's the skeleton. There's the muscles. All these beautiful parts of our bodies that God created have to be maintained and taken care of, and we're stewards of that.
Yeah, very well said. Can you share some non-scale victories along the way? So the scale is moving. Were there any particular things you look back on and smile with fondness? Like, wow, like those moments of like you feel proud, or you just like someone said something, your family. Give me some great NSV stories. I'd love to hear some of those. Funny.
Yeah. So I would say about a month ago, my daughter Ella, she's 16. She's just driving now. So she loves being out in the road. And she's an awesome driver, by the way. So keep it up, girl. She loves to thrift. So she's got a job at a local thrift store. And one day she came to me and said, "Man, Dad, you're really crushing this Fit Father thing." And I said, "Great. well, I got a challenge for you. I need new clothes now. So please go out and get me some new shirts. And she came back with 6 new shirts for me, wearing one of them right now.
Looks good.
That's the NSV. Like, you can enjoy the success with your family, and you need to enjoy it with your family, because they can both challenge you and then pat you on the back. So, that was one. I remember another day, I had tickets for free bowling with my boys. And so I took them to the bowling alley, and I went away to get like a pizza or something for them. And I took a little bite. It was a free meal. But you know how you can type in on the scoreboard people's names?
Yeah.
Right. So they put their names in. And then for mine, they put chicken and beans guy.
Nice.
So I'm like, wow, that's pretty nice. I didn't get Dad. I didn't get Dave. I got chicken and beans guy. But they see me eating chicken and black beans and pinto beans almost every other day. And they see that I'm being disciplined about my diet. So they just poke fun of me all the time. And I love it. So.
All right. So this is a nice transition. That's a really cool NSV too. Has your nutrition been enjoyable? Like, what kind of things have you slotted in? Because I mean, there might be some guys listening to this, man, like chicken and beans. That sounds like terrible. But at the same time, you're here with so much energy and you're so positive about that. Yeah. It leads me to believe you enjoy this stuff and this routine. So what is your relationship to the foods you eat? Mm-hmm. What does it feel like? Let's speak into that a little bit, please.
It's not easy. It's not easy knowing that this takes sacrifice, and it can take the stripping away of some things that we would all, love to have the rest of our lives. Like, I love Reese's peanut butter cups. I love ice cream. I love a lot of things that families just enjoy and can have quickly. But the relationship for food to me, I think the reason that this program inspired me as much as it did, what it is because it puts guys in the driver's seat. Like, they can craft their own menu, and that menu is so broad. Like, we can go to the store, you stay around the outside and you get the produce, you get the protein, you stay out of the middle section, and you can really rebuild where you want to go at your own pace, as long as you stay responsible and you stay within those guardrails. So for me, like I mentioned, I found a new love of fresh vegetables and cooked vegetables. So, adding that in was good. I know that it helps me more than just how many calories did you eat. It's what types of calories. What are those really rich sources of nutrients that help not just with the weight loss, but help your overall fitness level, and help your gut and help the things that really need to thrive. So for me, I remember a time too. It was not long after that first plateau that I went through, and I talked to Ben and I talked to Kat. I actually sat down and I came up with a menu of only 14 things, and on paper, it looked really harsh and Spartan, but I think it was the best decision for me. And it was one that said, okay, here's these rules. We're going to take it a notch up. We're actually going to eliminate things that are sort of the middle of the road items for a few days. We're going to eliminate dairy. We're going to eliminate artificial sweeteners. We're going to eliminate some of the things that, Fit Father wouldn't say are banned, but they're gray areas. So I did that for a while. And I found out that I could season protein, or I could turn like something that looks like really hard items into something that looks like a Chipotle meal. And I could still get all the values out of it that I needed to. So there's so many things you can do with food. I would encourage guys to get creative, challenge yourself, and understand that, giving up one thing for just a day might be hard, but you'll get past it. You get past 3 days of denying yourself and find that there's really richness and vibrancy with the right food. Nice.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about your family's experience watching you transform. I mean, we heard the story about Ella and the thrift shopping, which is awesome. What about your son? I mean, I'm thinking back to that pool moment, and now he's seen you like bust your butt in the gym in the morning and now lose the weight and look so much more fit. Has he made any comments, and your wife as well?
Well, that was 2 years ago when that thing happened in the pool. And this year I got completely the opposite. I remember actually going back to the pool, and they long had forgotten that moment. But he looked up at me and he said, "Dad, you have definitely lost the dad bod." And he was like high-fiving me. And
that's good.
It's a complete turnaround. But the boys, they see it. And they want to get down on the floor with me. And they, my youngest son, who's 7, he's even picking up the 5-pound weights and mimicking the push-ups. And so, I love that. And I love challenging them. I try to coach their teams whenever I can. Even though I know very little about soccer, I love coaching soccer, just because it bonds me with them. and it bonds me with other kids their age and keeps families together.
Nice. All right. I want to pivot for a second and talk about the busyness. You are a guy who travels for your work, and I want to know what some of your strategies and solutions have been to kind of take your Fit Father lifestyle, that through line, and make it applicable for when you're not at home and when you're traveling. What have been some of the strategies and learnings, and how have you stayed on track?
Well, for me, it's all about preparation, and that's true every day on the days that I don't travel. But when I know something's coming up, it's good to actually research the restaurants that are maybe close by. And even more importantly, is there a grocery store nearby where I can continue my same, habits? You can't cook salmon in a hotel room very easily, right? But you can strategize. You can come up with some fresh foods that, are whole foods that give you all the nutrients that you need. So that's one. Also, try to find the hotels with the fitness rooms where before your meetings, you can get down there and stay committed. So nice. But when it comes back to the everyday thing, one thing I do is I keep a little bag of nuts and cucumbers in my car. And I posted that the other day in the Brotherhood. And, it's one of those things where, between leaving the house and getting to work or vice versa on the way home, that's a lot of times when hunger hits. So keep something close by that's good. It just helps.
Totally. It's a very powerful strategy, and something that's so small that many people overlook, but that's your go-to snack, and it's there for you. So you don't have this not eat and get starving for dinner. Now, I want to shift gears again, and I want to talk a little bit more about some of the internal shifts that you've made. And particularly, you mentioned God and some of your spirituality and your faith. How has this all interplayed in terms of that aspect and dimension of your life, your inner life, your faith, your body, and God for you?
That's a wonderful question. Thank you for asking it. It might be one of the more important questions today. For me, my body, it's his temple. That's straight from scriptures. That's straight from the New Testament. And I remember that, but it's an easy verse to forget and sort of gloss over. When I was reading the scriptures earlier this year, I was focused on some passages in Genesis, actually. And I know, some of the brothers out there are believers or maybe just appreciate Genesis for the sense of the literature. But for me, it's about God, the omnipotent creator. So for me, I remember sitting with my son. He was actually reading it on his own, and he's just now learning how to read. And he actually read the first several days of that creation story. And as he was reading it, I started to connect creation with all the parts and systems of our own bodies, which I found remarkable. The story about separating the night from the day, and the story about taking dominions over the plants and all of creation, and realizing on the sixth day that in Scripture it says that God created a partner for Adam, and I'm reminded of, the partnerships that a lot of us have with our own wives, our significant others, and that partnership that we have as brothers. And to me, I'm relating that now to physical fitness and wellness because, I believe that we were created for that purpose of coming close to our Creator and for honoring Him.
Yeah, it's been my life experience too. And insofar as we align our bodies more with these natural laws, we get to experience even greater depths of connection.
Yeah.
So it's really powerful that you experienced that. Now, I'd love for you to share any times you had to overcome some serious adversity over these last 10 months. Have there been any moments, whether it's an injury, a schedule thing, a family thing, or just times where you maybe drifted off track and how you realigned yourself?
That's fine. No, it's a great question too, because I did hit a couple of plateaus in the last 6 or 8 months, and they were normal places to be. And I say plateaus with watching the scale specifically. But I do remember another sort of funny story and humbling story. I remember a day where I think we lost one of our utilities, our water went out or something. And my wife and I were trying to get out of town for a trip. Everything seemed to be going wrong. And I was frustrated. My anger got the best of me. And I went out to the garage and I kicked an old recliner. And I think I actually fractured my big toe in my right foot. And it set me back 3 weeks. Yeah. And I thought I was kicking the soft part of the chair, but I actually kicked the frame. And it was a setback where, these things happen. We all have bad days, but I figured out a way to try to keep working out. and it took a while, but I got back into a rhythm. But example of just life happening, right? But as long as you can keep the mindset of this is a story, this is a long-term commitment. We can find ways to get what, like you say, back on track. Just be patient with yourself because incidents happen, and we're going to run into bumps along that journey.
Nice. I want to ask you, what's in store for you? I mean, you've been rocking this year. Like, what do you see is in store for you next year? Whether it's like specific training coming up, different goals you want to work on with your body, programs to follow. I'd love to hear what you see for yourself in like the near future.
Yeah, sure. No, that's great. So I did hit the goal weight that I was looking for, but more importantly, like there were just other goals that I had with completing the program, and so I haven't followed it by the book. I love how it's set up so that guys can craft their own journey.
It's your book.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And, for me, I'm looking ahead at, two things, more speed and more strength. And that doesn't necessarily relate to any one particular workout. I just want to become more of an athletic guy. And those are more about performance based. So for speed, I want to get faster at the 400 and I want to get faster at the 1600. And I want to run another 5K. I did one with my kids the other day and I want to do that again. So that's the speed part. The strength part is actually starting OSM. So I'm really looking forward to that. I haven't set a date yet, but I think that as I turn the page on this year, I'm excited that's coming up. So
nice. Those are really exciting goals. Funny enough, I actually have very similar goals to you, and I've been doing just a lot of running. I've got really started to research a lot of people who are into like barefoot running and doing some of that stuff, which seems to really help connect the glutes. But either way, I'm glad. I'm just imagining you're going to be doing lots of sprints outside, improving your speed, and the OSM stuff's definitely going to help, especially when you do lift with a lot of velocity and get those fast twitch explosive fibers. That's going to be really cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of nervous. It looks pretty intimidating right now, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
It's actually kind of fun compared to the MRTs. It's a totally different style, but sprinkling those in is going to be very great for you.
Nice.
So let's talk a little more about the Brotherhood. I mean, I think many guys think that this is they don't expect that to be a part of a fitness program. You think you're signing up for like a fitness program, you're going to get some nutrition guidance, some exercise guidance, and then you're like opened up to this world of inspiring guys that elevate you. Speak into that a little bit more, maybe some relationships formed or even you giving back and be able to complete this cycle of receiving and giving. I'd love for you to speak into the Brotherhood a little bit more.
Yeah, no, it's really great. So the platform, is it's probably got hundreds or maybe thousands of guys who are involved in the group. And some guys use it more than others. There's some guys that probably live on it. I don't know how they do it, but they're encouragers. They hear every story, they see every post, and they add a positive comment, even if it's as simple as like a like. It has value because, it says we're listening to each other, right? I love it because there's a nice mix of very experienced guys and then guys who are complete newbies to fitness and wellness. I like the fact also that there's technical guidance and there's guys with a lot of wisdom who are pointing us to the right resources. So, as crazy of a question as technique on a certain lift or a certain exercise is good. And then there's guys who are just emotional. They need to get stuff out, right? And they're struggling with something, or it may or may not have to do with the program, and there's support there. So I think it's a nice reminder that we need each other. Iron does sharpen iron, and we have got to be in each other's corners. A lot of us live or work in places where it might be awkward to talk to your neighbor, or it might be awkward to talk to that other dad at the soccer field. But I think those things are valuable. I've got guys in this town here where we're talking a lot, and we can be that transparent. So it's a nice compliment to that for me to be able to have that network. And there's probably 8 or 10 guys on there that I talk to a little bit more than others. We DM each other and check in privately as well as just in the forums. Nice. So great tools. Let's keep it going.
Cool. I love it. And I want to, in the closing of this, I want to bring this full circle, and I want to come back to your dad. Like, what's he been like, and what is some of the relationship with him as he's seen you go through this? Start off with a very simple comment: "Hey, son, I will give you some accountability." Yeah. And now you're here, and there's a chance maybe he'll even listen to this podcast. So if you're listening, thanks, Dad. Amazing. Like, please speak into that.
Absolutely. So, this is about my dad. It's also about my mom. I love them to death, and they have accomplished something great. Last summer they celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary.
No kidding.
Yeah.
What an accomplishment that is.
And, my dad, he's a retired Navy captain, but as he retired in the military, his life, he didn't see it as stopping. He has stayed just as active. And he's over at the rec center pumping iron 3 days a week still, at 74. And I admire that. I admire him. I admire the fact that he can look into me. He can speak wisdom into me and, offer that source of encouragement and that boost. So who knows where we'll go as far as these check-ins, but he's a great partner, and it's just a joy to have him in my life still. And I know it's a treasure. It's a thing that a lot of guys can't say, that they're that close to their dad and they have felt them as a constant for their entire life.
Mm-hmm. And the weight that he's seen as he saw your weight go down and down on these monthly check-ins.
Yeah.
Like, did he make comments? Because I know no judgment, but I'm sure he's like, something's happening here. Like, stuff's working. Like, good job, son, keep going. Or what was the communication like with him along the way?
That's a great question too. So, I didn't share with him back in January what my goal was. I was pretty closed about it because I thought, man, that's pretty ambitious. But, I remember a picture that he shared with me, literally a picture on his wedding day of him and my mom. I look back at him now and know that, as a midshipman, he was in stellar shape, right? But I remember him telling me, he said, Dave, when I was married, I was probably 160 soaking wet. And that was years ago that he shared that. And for some reason, that number stuck, right? And so I look back at it and I said, man, if I'm going to make my fitness goal right, it's going to match my dad back in 1971. So that's where I made it. And, as we went through the year and checked in, I think he was probably like concerned, like, man, how far is this guy going to take things? Like, I thought 175 was healthy, but I hit the 160 and I'm proud of it. And, it's just something that now I'm really looking forward just to continuing a great life with him, my mom, and just the joy of their support.
Beautiful, Dave.
Yeah.
And my last question for you, less formal question at least, is to you now, having gone through what you've experienced with this program, what does it mean to you to be a fit father?
That's awesome. It means more than just being a fit father. It means being a better husband, number one. My wife, Jen, is my best friend. And we put each other first and we rely on each other. And being a fit father is about being, number one, her biggest and best friend, and someone who brings her the source of strength and encouragement that's so important. From there, it is being a fit father is that it's about being a great dad. It's about putting our relationships and our families first, and realizing that doing this stuff at 5:15 in the mornings while they're maybe still asleep is actually benefiting them and all of us in the long run. When I'm 74, I want to be out shooting hoops with my grandkids, and that's my goal. And, flash forward to my dad's age now, I want to be able to offer that same thing to my own. So this is a great tool, and it's been a really fantastic way for a new discipline for me.
Nice. What a beautiful answer. And I see that image of you. And I just only imagine, like, at that, you'll have another 25, 30 years of experience working this thing. And the wisdom you're going to gain is going to be tremendous. I think you become a great resource for your family too, a source of inspiration like your dad has been for you. And I think this is where the ripple impact of our own personal transformation can have like generational impact potentially. And that excites me for you and your family as well.
There you go. Absolutely.
So, I want to turn you over the floor one more time. If there's anything you felt that's been like left unsaid, I don't know if there is, because this has been one heck of a conversation and, it's really touched my heart. Is there anything else you'd like to share in conclusion of this episode?
No, I just want to thank you and your whole team. You've been fantastic encouragers to me. You're clearly supporting each other, and I'm just excited for the next chapter for you all too. So let's stay in each other's corner.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate you so much for coming on the episode and sharing everything you did.
Absolutely.